The massive crystal station floated in the darkness of space like a glowing jewel. Nexus Prime was the biggest structure ever built by intelligent beings in the galaxy. Its towers stretched out in all directions, each one bigger than most planets. Millions of lights twinkled across its surface as ships came and went from every corner of known space. Ambassador Zethkara stood at the viewing window of his office. Watching the peaceful world of Valoria turn slowly below, his tall, thin body was almost see-through, like glass made of starlight. The Valorians had ruled this part of the galaxy for thousands of years, and they were proud of bringing peace to so many worlds. A soft chime made him turn around. His communication device was blinking with an urgent message. Zethkara touched the glowing panel with one long finger, and a voice filled the room. The voice was strange, speaking in rough sounds that seemed to come from a throat made for fighting, rather than singing. "This is Commander Lisa Parker of the United Earth Defense Force," the voice said. "We represent the planet Earth and the Sol system. We've developed faster-than-light communication and wish to make contact with Galactic civilization. Please respond if you receive this message." Zethkara blinked his large silver eyes. Earth. He had never heard of such a world. He quickly checked the Galactic database, and his expression changed from curious to confused. As a small world in the Outer Rim, far from any important trade routes, the database showed it had life, but no one had ever bothered to visit it. What made this even stranger was that the database listed Earth as a Class 12 world. Zethkara frowned. Most civilized species came from Class 3 or Class 4 worlds, peaceful places with gentle weather and plenty of food. Class 12 worlds were dangerous places where most life forms died quickly. He played the message again. Listening to the rough voice of this commander, Lisa Parker, something about the way she spoke made him uncomfortable, though he could not say why. Her words were polite, but there was something hard underneath them, like iron wrapped in silk. Within an hour, the Great Council Chamber was filled with representatives from the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. The chamber was a beautiful dome made of living crystal that changed colors as different beings spoke. Each species had their own section. It's designed to make them comfortable. High Counselor Morthen of the Christic Empire sat on a throne made of purple stone. His body was like a walking mountain of crystal and metal, with tiny lights dancing inside his chest. Next to him sat Speaker Azara of the Feliner people. She looked like a giant cat walking on two legs. With golden fur and bright green eyes that missed nothing, Dr. Quintal floated in a tank of blue water, his tentacles moving slowly as he thought. The Hydros were the galaxy's best scientists, and their knowledge of life forms was greater than any other species. In the corner, Ambassador Felinara of the peaceful Thornish people sat quietly, her plant-like body swaying gently in the artificial breeze. Fellow council member Zethkara began, his voice singing like wind chimes. "We have received a transmission from an unknown species. They call themselves humans, and they come from a world called Earth in the Sol system." Speaker Izara. Ears twitched with interest. "Another new species seeking our guidance? How wonderful. The galaxy grows larger every year." High Counselor Morthen's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "What do we know about these humans? Are they peaceful? Do they have anything to offer us?" Dr. Quintal's tentacles moved faster. As he accessed the Galactic database, "The data is concerning," he said, his voice bubbling through the water. "Their world is listed as Class 12. The gravity is nearly 3 times what most of us consider normal. The atmosphere contains dangerous gases, and the weather patterns show extreme violence." "Class 12? Ambassador Felinara gasped, her leaves rustling with worry. How could intelligent life develop on such a terrible world? "Perhaps they are like the Gornax people," suggested Counselor Veltar of the Gas-Breathing Methane Coalition. "Strong but simple, good for heavy labor, but needing our guidance in all important matters." Zethkara nodded slowly. "That seems likely." Their message was crude, and they seemed to know nothing about proper diplomatic protocol. The one who spoke called herself a commander and mentioned something called a defense force. They probably have small conflicts on their world and think military titles make them sound important. Speaker Azara laughed. a sound like purring mixed with music. How cute. They probably fight with sticks and stones, and they think having a few warriors makes them mighty. We should send someone to welcome them properly. I agree, said Hai. Counselor Morthen. But who should we send? This seems like a simple matter. Any junior diplomat could handle bringing another primitive species into our protection. Dr. Quintel was still studying the data about Earth. His tentacles had stopped moving. His large eyes were wide with concern. Council members, I must share something troubling. The scans of their world show signs of advanced technology. They have cities covering entire continents, and there are artificial structures in orbit around their planet. Impossible, scoffed Counselor Veltar. No species develops advanced technology on a Class 12 world. The environment would kill them long before they could build anything complex. Perhaps they found some old technology left by a more advanced species, suggested Ambassador Felinara. Many primitive worlds have ruins from the ancient times. Zethkara considered this. It made sense. These humans had probably found some old machines and learned to use them without understanding how they worked. It happened sometimes with young species. They would play with dangerous toys until a more civilized species came to guide them. I think we should treat this as a standard first contact situation, Zethkara declared. We'll send Junior Ambassador. Nelvana, she's young and eager to prove herself, so it'll be good practice for her. The other council members murmured their agreement. Nelvana was Zethkara's own student, a bright young Valorian who had studied the proper ways to welcome new species into the galactic community. She would offer these humans the standard protection agreement, help them understand their place in the galaxy, and establish peaceful trade relations. Should we send a military escort? Asked Speaker Azara. Just in case these humans are not as friendly as they seem? High Counselor Morthen's crystal body flashed with amusement. Could a species from a Class 12 world possibly do to threaten us? If they had any real military power, they would have destroyed themselves long ago. No, a simple diplomatic vessel will be enough. Dr. Quintel wanted to say more about the troubling data from Earth, but he could see that the Council had already made up their minds. Perhaps he was worrying about nothing. After all, the Council had successfully welcomed over 300 species into the galactic community. They knew what they were doing. It's very well, Zethkara announced. Junior Ambassador Nelvana will depart for Earth tomorrow aboard the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Light. Her mission is to assess these humans, offer them membership as a protected species, and establish proper relations. The council members began to leave, already thinking about more important matters. Another primitive world would soon join their great community of civilized beings. The humans would be grateful for their protection and guidance, just like all the others. As the chamber emptied, Dr. Quintel remained floating in his tank, still studying the data about Earth. Something bothered him about the scans, but he could not figure out what it was. The planet showed too many signs of conflict, too much evidence of violence and destruction. Most species learned to live in peace long before they developed advanced technology, but the Council was wise and experienced. They had dealt with hundreds of species over the centuries. Surely they knew best. Still, as Dr. Quintel finally left the chamber, he could not shake the feeling that they were making a terrible mistake. The data about Earth told a story that none of them wanted to hear. The story of a world where life had to fight every single day just to survive. None of them realized they had just decided to contact the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The diplomatic vessel Harmony's Light dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Junior Ambassador Nelvana stood on the bridge, her silver eyes wide with excitement. This was her first solo diplomatic mission, and she was determined to make the Galactic Council proud. The ship's captain, an elderly Valorian named Silinth, studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. Ambassador, these readings are strange. There are artificial structures throughout this entire star system. Nelvana moved to look at the display. What she saw surprised her. The third planet from the star was covered in lights, visible even from this great distance. But more interesting were the dozens of objects moving between the planets. Ships, stations, and structures that had not been there in the old survey data. "They have been busy," she said with a small smile. "Perhaps they found more ancient technology than we thought. No matter, Captain. Take us toward their world. I'm sure they will be happy to see us." As Harmony's light moved deeper into the system, Nelvana prepared her standard first contact materials. She had holographic displays showing the great cities of Valoria, coded messages from other species welcoming Earth to the galactic community, treaties written in simple language that any primitive species could understand. But when they reached Earth's orbit, something unexpected happened. Instead of the usual excited welcome messages that new species always sent, they received a calm, professional transmission. An unknown vessel. "This is Admiral Jake Morrison of Luna Base Command. You are entering restricted space around Earth. Please state your identity and purpose, and maintain your current distance until we can establish proper diplomatic protocols." Nelvana blinked in surprise. The voice was steady and controlled. Nothing like the excited babbling she usually heard from newly contacted species. Even stranger, the human had not asked for her help or protection. He had given her orders. "This is Junior Ambassador Nelvana of the Galactic Confederation," she replied, using her most gentle and reassuring tone. "I bring greetings from civilized species across the galaxy. We wish to welcome humanity to our great community." There was a long pause before Admiral Morrison replied. "Ambassador Nelvana, welcome to the Sol System. We appreciate your visit. However, all diplomatic meetings will take place at designated locations. Please wait while we prepare suitable facilities." Captain Silenth looked at the sensor readings again, and his expression grew worried. "Ambassador, I'm detecting movement. Throughout the system, there are ships approaching from multiple directions." Nelvana looked at the display and felt a chill run through her translucent body. Dozens of human vessels were moving toward them, but they were not rushing in excitement like most new species did. They moved in careful formations, keeping precise distances from each other. It looked almost like a military patrol. "Surely they're just curious," Nelvana said, though her voice was not as confident as before. "Many primitive species have small conflicts. They probably think those ships make them look important." But as the human ships came closer, Nelvana could see that they were not primitive at all. The vessels were sleek and obviously built for speed. Even more worrying, her sensors detected weapon systems that seemed far more advanced than anything a Class 12 world should have. Admiral Morrison's voice came through the communications again. "Ambassador, you are cleared to land at Cheyenne Mountain Complex in North America. Coordinates are being transmitted now. Please note that the landing area is within a restricted military zone. Your vessel will be escorted by our fighters for safety purposes." Before Nelvana could respond, 6 human fighters appeared around Harmony's light. They moved with perfect precision, keeping exact distances and speeds. Nelvana had seen military escorts before, but never ones that flew with such skill and coordination. Captain Silenth activated the navigation system. "The coordinates they gave us are in a mountain range. It looks like they want us to land at some kind of fortress." Nelvana tried to remain calm. Many primitive species were cautious during first contact, when she explained the benefits of joining the Galactic Confederation. These humans would surely become more friendly and trusting. The landing site was indeed a fortress. Cheyenne Mountain Complex was built into solid rock, with massive doors that could close off entire sections. Armed human soldiers stood at attention as Harmony's light set down on the landing pad. Nelvana noticed that the soldiers moved differently than most beings she had met. They walked like predators, always alert and ready for danger. General Katie Hudson waited at the entrance to the underground complex. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and graying hair, wearing a uniform covered in military decorations. Next to her stood Colonel Ben Carter, a younger man with the same predatory alertness. As the guards, "Ambassador Nelvana," General Hudson said, stepping forward. "Welcome to Earth. I am General Hudson, commander of this facility. This is Colonel Carter, our liaison officer, and Dr. Susan Walsh, our chief xenobiologist." Nelvana smiled her most diplomatic smile. "General Hudson, I am honored to meet you. I bring greetings from the Galactic Confederation and an offer of friendship that will change your world forever." But instead of the excitement she expected, General Hudson simply nodded. "We appreciate that, Ambassador. Please follow me to the conference room. We have many questions about your organization and its intentions in our space." The conference room was deep underground, surrounded by thick concrete and metal. Nelvana sat at a large table across from the three humans. She activated her holographic display, showing images of beautiful alien worlds and great space cities. "General Hudson," she began, "your species is about to join the greatest community in the galaxy. The Galactic Confederation includes over 300 intelligent species, all working together in peace and harmony. We offer protection from the dangers of space, access to advanced technology, and guidance as you take your first steps among the stars." Dr. Walsh leaned forward. "Protection from what exactly?" Nelvana was surprised by the question. Most species immediately understood why they needed protection. "Well, there are many dangers in space. Hostile aliens, natural disasters, the savage clans that raid peaceful worlds. As a young species, you would be easy targets without our help." Colonel Carter made notes on a small device. "Tell us about these savage clans. How many ships do they have? What are their weapons like? How do they choose their targets?" Questions made Nelvana uncomfortable. These humans seemed more interested in military information than in the wonderful benefits of joining civilized society. The savage clans are unpleasant beings. They attack worlds that cannot defend themselves. But you don't need to worry about such things. As members of the Confederation, you would be under our protection. General Hudson's eyes narrowed slightly. "And what would this protection cost us?" "Cost?" Nelvana was confused. "There is no cost. We simply ask that you follow Confederation law, allow us to manage your military forces, and accept guidance from more experienced species. In return, you receive all the benefits of galactic civilization." The three humans exchanged glances that Nelvana could not read. There was something in their expressions that made her nervous, though she could not say what it was. "Ambassador," Dr. Walsh said carefully, "you mentioned that Earth is classified as a Class 12 world. What does that mean exactly?" Nelvana brightened. Finally, a question she could answer easily. Class 12 worlds are very dangerous places. They have extreme weather, hostile life forms, and environmental conditions that kill most species quickly. We are amazed that your people survive long enough to develop intelligence. It shows remarkable determination. Colonel Carter looked up from his notes. "And how many other species have evolved on Class 12 worlds?" "Oh, none that we know of," Nelvana replied. "You are the first. Most intelligent life develops on peaceful Class 3 or Class 4 worlds, where survival is easy and beings can focus on higher thoughts instead of just staying alive." The humans became very quiet. Nelvana could feel tension in the room, but she did not understand where it was coming from. These humans should be grateful to learn how special and unusual they were. General Hudson finally spoke. "Ambassador, we need time to discuss your offer with our government. Earth's leadership will want to review all the details before making any decisions." Nelvana nodded. This was normal. Primitive species often needed time to understand the benefits of Confederation membership. "Of course, General, take all the time you need. I will remain in orbit until you are ready to proceed." But as she prepared to leave, Dr. Walsh asked one more question. "Ambassador, in your experience, how do species from Class 12 worlds usually behave when they encounter threats?" Nelvana paused. It was an odd question, but she answered honestly. "We have no experience with Class 12 species, Dr. Walsh. You are the first we have ever encountered." "Why do you ask?" Dr. Walsh smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Just curious about our place in the galaxy, Ambassador. Just curious." As Nelvana walked back to her ship, escorted by more of those predatory human soldiers, she began to feel that something was very wrong. These humans did not act like any primitive species she had ever met. They were too calm, too organized, and far too interested in military matters. 3 weeks had passed since Nelvana's awkward first meeting with the humans. She remained in orbit around Earth, waiting for their government to make a decision about joining the Galactic Confederation. Every day, she sent polite messages asking about their progress, and every day, The humans sent polite replies saying they needed more time. Nelvana was growing frustrated. Most species jumped at the chance to join galactic civilization. They begged for protection and guidance. But these humans seemed to think they had other options, which was clearly impossible for a primitive species from the Outer Rim. She was reviewing her daily reports when every alarm on her ship began screaming at once. Captain Silanth rushed to the bridge, his face pale with fear. "Ambassador, we have massive contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The energy signatures match Savage Clan vessels." Nelvana felt ice form in her stomach. The Savage Clans were the nightmare that haunted every peaceful world in the galaxy. They were a collection of violent species that lived only to conquer and destroy. For 300 years, they had raided Confederation worlds, taking slaves and resources before disappearing back into the dark spaces between stars. "How many ships?" she asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Captain Silanth checked his sensors again, hoping he was wrong. "Over 300 vessels, Ambassador. It's the largest Savage Clan fleet anyone has ever recorded. They're headed straight for the inner system." Nelvana immediately opened a communication channel to Earth's government. She expected panic, screaming, desperate pleas for help. Instead, Admiral Morrison's calm voice answered as if she had called about the weather. "Ambassador Nelvana, good morning. What can I do for you?" "Admiral Morrison, you must evacuate your planet immediately," Nelvana said, her voice shaking with urgency. "A massive Savage Clan fleet has entered your system. They will be here in less than 6 hours. My ship cannot protect you, and the nearest Confederation military fleet is 6 days away." There was a pause, and Nelvana could hear voices talking in the background. Finally, Admiral Morrison replied, "Thank you for the warning, Ambassador. We appreciate the information. We'll handle this situation." Nelvana stared at her communication device in shock. "Admiral, I don't think you understand. The Savage Clans are the most dangerous force in the galaxy. They have destroyed entire civilizations. You need to evacuate now, while there's still time." "Ambassador, we understand the situation," Admiral Morrison said, his voice still completely calm. "Earth Defense Command is implementing appropriate measures. I suggest you move your vessel to a safe distance. Things might get a bit rough around." Here, the communication ended, leaving Nelvana staring at the screen in horror. These humans clearly had no idea what was coming for them. They were about to be slaughtered, and they were acting like it was just another day. Captain Silanth was monitoring the approaching fleet. "Ambassador, the Savage Clan ships are entering the outer system. Their leader is broadcasting on all frequencies." The main screen filled with the terrifying image of Warlord Grexmore, leader of the Skarn race. He was 8 feet tall, covered in black scales, with claws that could tear through metal and eyes like burning coals. Behind him, Nelvana could see rows of enslaved beings from dozens of conquered worlds. "Weak creatures of the small blue world," Grexmore snarled, his voice like grinding stone. "I am Warlord Grexmore of the Bone Crusher. Your pathetic planet has been chosen for conquest. Surrender now, and we will kill only half of your population. Resist, and we will make your death slow and painful." Nelvana waited for the human response, expecting terror and pleas for mercy. Instead, she heard General Hudson's voice, as steady and professional as ever. "Hey, unknown vessels. This is General Hudson of Earth Defense Command. You have entered Earth territorial space without permission. You have 30 minutes to reverse course and leave this system. If you do not comply, we will consider your presence an act of war." Warlord Grexmore threw back his massive head and laughed, a sound like breaking bones. "Foolish creatures. We are 300 ships strong. We have conquered 1,000 worlds? What could one primitive planet do to stop us?" "You have 29 minutes, General Hudson replied. Nelvana could not believe what she was hearing. These humans were about to be destroyed, and they were giving ultimatums to the most feared force in the galaxy. She hoped was a safe distance and prepared to witness the end of human civilization. The Savage Clan fleet moved through the outer planets like a dark wave of death, their Their ships were massive and crude, built from the bones and metal of conquered worlds. Grexmoor's flagship, the Bone Crusher, was the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons and powered by enslaved populations. As the fleet approached the asteroid belt between the fourth and fifth planets, Nelvana expected to see human ships fleeing in panic. Instead, something impossible happened. The asteroid belt came alive. Hidden weapons platforms revealed themselves on dozens of asteroids, their massive railguns turning toward the approaching fleet. Nelvana watched in amazement as tungsten projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds, began hammering the Savage Clan ships. "Impossible," Captain Silenth whispered. "Those weapons are firing at nearly the speed of light. The power requirements alone should be beyond any primitive species." That was only the beginning. Luna Base, which Nelvana had thought was just a simple military outpost, suddenly opened like a flower. Massive launch bays hidden beneath the moon's surface released hundreds of sleek fighter craft. The human pilots flew with impossible skill, weaving between enemy fire and striking with deadly precision. Warlord. Grexmoor's roar of rage echoed across all communication frequencies. "What is this? These creatures fight like demons." Nelvana could only stare as the battle unfolded. The humans had turned their entire star system into a trap. Ships emerged from behind planets and moons throughout the system, all moving in perfect coordination. These were not the crude vessels of a primitive species. They were sleek, fast, and obviously built for war. The human formation moved like a living thing, each ship knowing exactly where to be at every moment. Nelvana had studied military tactics at the Confederation Academy, but she had never seen anything like this. It was as if every human pilot could read the minds of all the others. One of the Savage Clan heavy cruisers, the Skullbreaker, moved to attack what looked like a smaller human vessel. Nelvana expected the human ship to retreat or try to escape. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the much larger enemy ship. "They're going to ram," Captain Silenth said in disbelief. "At that speed, both ships will be destroyed." But just before impact, the human ship fired all its weapons at point-blank range, then used its engines to spin away at the last second. The Savage Clan cruiser exploded in a ball of fire, while the human vessel, though damaged, was still fighting. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communications again, speaking to his fleet. "All units, execute Formation Delta 7. Target the command ships first. Let's end this quickly." Nelvana watched in growing amazement as the human fleet moved to surround the much larger Savage Clan force. It should have been impossible. It's 300 enemy ships against maybe 50 human vessels.
Ow.
The humans should have been crushed in minutes instead. The Savage Clan fleet was falling apart. Human fighters swarmed over the enemy ships like angry insects, targeting weapons and engines with surgical precision. The larger human vessels worked together, covering each other and focusing their fire on the most dangerous threats. Fought like they had been born for war. Like violence was as natural to them as breathing. Warlord Grexmoor's flagship tried to break through the human lines, its massive guns firing in all directions. But 3 human destroyers moved to intercept, their combined firepower overwhelming the Bone Crusher's shields. "This cannot be happening," Grexmoor screamed over the radio. "We are the Savage Clans. We're the terror of the galaxy. How can primitive creatures fight like this?" Captain Ryan Phillips of the USS Defiance answered him, his voice cold as space. "You picked the wrong planet, alien. Humans don't surrender, and we don't run. We fight." The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt after. The first few minutes, the Savage Clans had never faced an enemy like this. Every species they had ever fought became terrified when they saw the clan ships. They begged for mercy, tried to negotiate, or simply fled in panic. But the humans did none of these things. They fought with a cold, calculated fury that Nelvana had never seen before. They took impossible risks, made sacrifices that no civilized being would consider, and never showed even a moment of fear, as the last Savage Clan ships either exploded or fled into the darkness. Nelvana received a communication from the USS Defiance. Captain Phillips appeared on her screen, his uniform torn and his face covered in soot from battle damage. Ambassador Nelvana, this is Captain Phillips. Admiral Morrison would like to invite you aboard our ship. He thought you might want to see the results of the battle firsthand. Nelvana could only nod, too shocked to speak. In 6 hours, these humans had accomplished what the entire Galactic Confederation had failed to do in 3 centuries. They had broken the savage clans completely. Nelvana floated inside the USS Defiance, her translucent body shimmering with nervous energy. The human ship was nothing like the peaceful vessels of the Confederation. Every surface was designed for efficiency and survival. The corridors were narrow but strong. The walls covered with emergency equipment and weapon storage. Admiral Morrison met her at the airlock, his uniform showing the strain of commanding the battle. Next to him stood Dr. Susan Walsh, the xenobiologist who had asked so many troubling questions during their first meeting. Ambassador Nelvana, Admiral Morrison said, "Welcome aboard. I thought you might want to understand what just happened." Here Nelvana followed them through the ship's corridors, amazed at what she saw. Human crew members moved with perfect coordination, even though their ship had taken damage during the fighting. They worked under acceleration that would kill most galactic species, their bodies adapting to forces that should have crushed them. "How are they doing that?" Nelvana asked Dr. Walsh as they watched crew members running through corridors while the ship spun and twisted through space. Dr. Walsh smiled. "Earth's gravity is 3 times stronger than most worlds, Ambassador. Our inner ears and muscle systems evolved to handle much worse conditions than this." They reached the command center where Captain Phillips was coordinating the cleanup of the battlefield. Tactical displays showed the positions of destroyed Savage Clan ships scattered throughout the solar system. Nelvana stared at the numbers. In disbelief, 312 enemy vessels destroyed or disabled, Captain Phillips reported. 47 ships escaped by jumping too faster than light speeds. Human casualties are surprisingly light considering the size of the enemy force. Nelvana turned to Admiral Morrison. "How is this possible? Savage clans have terrorized the galaxy for centuries. The Confederation's best military forces could never achieve a victory like this." "Sit down, Ambassador," Dr. Walsh said gently. "It's time you learned the truth about humanity." Nelvana settled into a chair designed for alien visitors while Dr. Walsh activated a holographic display. The image showed Earth as seen from space, beautiful and blue, but the data surrounding it told a different story. "You classified our world as Class 12, Dr. Walsh began. "I don't think you understand what that really means. Earth isn't just dangerous, Ambassador. It's a world that has spent 4 billion years trying to kill everything that lives on. The display changed to show Earth's history. Nelvana watched in horror as massive asteroids slammed into the planet. Volcanoes erupted with the force of atomic bombs, and ice sheets covered entire continents for thousands of years. Our species survived 5 major extinction events," Dr. Walsh continued. "Asteroid impacts, volcanic explosions, ice ages, atmospheric changes that killed most other life forms. Humanity didn't just survive, Ambassador. We evolved during these disasters." Admiral Morrison pointed to another display showing human development over millions of years. "Our ancestors competed with creatures that could tear us apart with their bare claws. Predators that were faster, stronger, and better armed than we were, so we developed something else." "Intelligence," Nelvana whispered. "Not just intelligence," Captain Phillips said, joining the conversation. "We developed the ability to work together, to plan, to adapt, and to never give up. Every human alive today is descended from beings who survived when everything else died." Dr. Walsh brought up new images showing human conflicts throughout history. "But the planet wasn't our only enemy, Ambassador. We also fought each other. For thousands of years, human tribes and nations competed for limited resources. We developed weapons, tactics, and strategies that no peaceful species would ever need." Nelvana stared at the images of human warfare. Battles involving millions of soldiers, weapons that could destroy entire cities, conflicts that lasted for years or decades. No wonder these humans fought so well against the savage clans. They had been practicing for their entire evolutionary history. The Confederation believes that intelligent species naturally become peaceful as they advance, Admiral Morrison said. That works fine for species that evolved on garden worlds where survival was easy. But we come from a world that taught us a different lesson. What lesson? Nelvana asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Captain Phillips answered, his voice hard as steel, that sometimes you have to fight to protect what you love. That peace is not the natural state of the universe. Predators exist, and someone has to stop them. The tactical display updated with new information as human ships continued their cleanup operations. Nelvana watched salvage teams moving through the wreckage, but she noticed something that confused her. Why are your people helping the wounded Savage Clan survivors? She asked. Those beings would have killed every human on your planet. Dr. Walsh nodded. Another thing you need to understand about humans, Ambassador. We can be incredibly violent when we need to be, but we don't enjoy killing. Those survivors are no longer a threat, so now they're just wounded beings who need medical help. Nelvana felt dizzy as she tried to process this information. Everything she thought she knew about how intelligent species developed was wrong. Humans were not peaceful creatures who had learned to fight. They were warriors who had learned to be peaceful. Show her the comparison data, Admiral Morrison said to Dr. Walsh. The holographic display split into two sections. On one side, Nelvana saw data about typical Confederation species, Valorians, Christic, Felinor, and others, all developing on worlds with mild climates and abundant resources. On the other side was Earth's data, showing a world of constant danger and limited resources. Most galactic species have reaction times measured in full seconds, Dr. Walsh explained. Humans react in milliseconds. Most species can survive gravity up to 1.5 times their homeworld normal. Humans regularly function under forces that would kill other beings. Captain Phillips pulled up military data from the recent battle. Our pilots can think and react faster than most species' computers. Our soldiers can carry equipment and fight in conditions that would disable other warriors. We don't just fight better than other species, Ambassador. We fight better than they ever could, but the most shocking revelation was still to come. Dr. Walsh brought up a new display showing human space technology. You thought we were primitive? Because we hadn't contacted the galaxy before now, she said. The truth is, we've been watching you for decades. We knew about the Confederation, the Savage Clans, and the various galactic powers long before you knew about us. Nelvana's silver eyes went wide. You've been spying on us? Learning about you, Admiral Morrison corrected. We intercepted your communications, studied your technology, and prepared for the day when contact would be inevitable. We wanted to be ready. Ready for what? For exactly what just happened, Captain Phillips said, gesturing toward the battlefield outside. We knew the galaxy had threats like the Savage Clans. We built our defenses and trained our forces to handle anything we might face. Nelvana looked around the command center, seeing the human crew working with calm efficiency, even after such a massive battle. These beings had just fought off the galaxy's greatest threat, and they were acting like it was routine training exercise. What do you want from the galaxy? Nelvana asked. If you're so powerful, why do you need the Confederation at all? Dr. Walsh and Admiral Morrison exchanged glances. We don't need protection, Ambassador, Dr. Walsh said. We never did. But there are other species out there who do need protection. Species like yours, who evolved on peaceful worlds and never learned to fight. You see, Admiral Morrison continued, we've been monitoring Confederation space for years. We know how often the Savage Clans attack your worlds. We know how many. Beings die because the galaxy's military forces aren't strong enough to stop them. Captain Phillips pointed to the wreckage floating outside. Today we proved that the Savage Clans can be stopped. Their ships can be destroyed. Their leaders can be defeated, and their reign of terror can end. Nelvana felt something she had never experienced before. For the first time in her life, she felt completely safe. These humans, these warriors from the Death World, were not interested in conquest or domination. They wanted to protect others. Galaxy has spent centuries wondering what would happen when a truly powerful species emerged among the stars. Dr. Walsh said quietly. Now you know. We're not here to rule or to conquer. We're here to make sure that beings like the Savage Clans Never again terrorize innocent worlds. Admiral Morrison stood up, his expression serious but kind. Ambassador, when you report back, to your council, tell them this. Humanity offers our military services to the Confederation, not as junior members seeking protection, but as equal partners ready to defend galactic civilization. Nelvana nodded slowly, finally understanding. The complete picture? The galaxy had not discovered another species to protect and guide. They had awakened guardians who had been preparing for this moment for thousands of years. As she prepared to return to her ship, Nelvana looked back at the human officers who had shown her such kindness, despite her species' arrogance. The galaxy was about to change forever, and for the first time in centuries. That change would be for the better. The Deathworlders had revealed themselves, and the age of fear was coming to an end. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than any ship could fly. On every civilized world, beings gathered around communication devices to hear the impossible story. It's the savage clans, the terror that had haunted space for 3 centuries, had been completely destroyed by a single species from the Outer Rim. On Valoria, Ambassador Zethkara stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, reading Nelvana's report for the 3rd time. His hand shook as he turned each page. Everything the Council thought they knew about the universe had been wrong. Hi. Counselor Morthan S. crystal body flickered with confused colors. This cannot be accurate.
Accurate.
No primitive species could defeat the savage clans. There must be some mistake. The battle recordings don't lie, Dr. Quintel said from his water tank, his tentacles moving in agitation. I've analyzed every second of the footage Nelvana sent us. These humans destroyed over 300 enemy vessels in 6 hours. Their technology is centuries ahead of our own. Speaker Asara's golden fur stood on end as she paced back and forth. How did we miss this? How did an entire species develop such advanced military capabilities without us knowing? Zethkara activated a holographic display showing Earth's solar system. According to Nelvana's report, they've been watching us for decades. They knew about the Confederation, about our weaknesses, about the savage clans. They were prepared. For everything. The council chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. Every species in the galaxy had assumed that the Confederation represented the height of galactic civilization. They had believed that their peaceful, cooperative society was the natural evolution of all intelligent life. But the humans had proven that wrong in the most dramatic way possible. What do they want from us? Asked Ambassador Felinara, her plant-like body swaying nervously. If they're so powerful, why haven't they demanded tribute or territory? Zethkara smiled for the first time since receiving Nelvana's report. This was the one piece of good news in the entire situation. They want to stock datastopes they want to. Help us. They're offering their military services to protect Confederation worlds from threats like the savage clans. Help us. High Counselor Morthan's voice rumbled with suspicion. What species offers military aid without demanding something in return? What's their real purpose? Before anyone could answer, the chamber's main communication system activated. The image of a human female appeared on the central display. She was middle-aged, with gray hair and intelligent eyes, wearing a simple blue uniform without military decorations. Honored members of the Galactic Council, the human said. I am President Elizabeth Shaw of Earth. I apologize for interrupting your session, but I believe we need to speak directly. The council members looked at each other in shock. No one had ever interrupted a council session before, and certainly not someone from a species that wasn't even a Confederation member. Zethkara found his voice first. President Shaw, this is highly irregular. How did you gain access to our private communications? President Shaw smiled slightly. Ambassador Zethkara, my species has been monitoring your communications for 43 years. We know about every council session, every military operation, and every threat facing your civilization. We've been waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves. High Counselor Morthan S. crystal body flared with angry red light. You've been spying on us for decades. This is an act of war. No, Counselor, President Shaw replied calmly. This is an act of preparation. We needed to understand your society, your capabilities, and your enemies before we could offer our assistance. Dr. Quintal leaned forward in his tank. Why would you want to help us? What do you gain from protecting Confederation worlds? President Shaw's expression grew serious. Dr. Quintal, my species learned long ago that predators like the savage clans never stop hunting. They attack the weak first, but eventually they come for everyone. The only way to truly be safe is to make sure such threats are eliminated completely. But the savage clans are gone, Speaker Yazara said. Your people destroyed them. We destroyed one group of raiders, President Shaw corrected. But there are others out there in the dark spaces between stars. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and someone needs to stand guard. We're offering to be those guardians. Zethkara studied the human president's face, trying to understand her motivations. What would you want in return for this protection? Full membership in the Galactic Confederation, President Shaw replied. Not as a junior member seeking guidance, but as an equal partner with full voting rights and representation. We also request the right to establish military bases in strategic locations throughout Confederation space. The council members exchanged worried glances. Giving full membership to humanity would change the balance of power in the galaxy completely. With their superior technology and military capabilities, the humans could dominate every decision. As if reading their thoughts, President Shaw continued. We're not interested in ruling the galaxy, council members. We have our own worlds to develop and our own people to care for. But we've seen what happens to civilizations that can't protect themselves. We don't want that to happen to you. How can we trust you? High Counselor Morthen demanded. Your species is violent and warlike. How do we know you won't turn on? Us, once we give you what you want. President Shaw was quiet for a long moment before answering. Counselor, I understand your fear, but consider this. If we wanted to conquer the galaxy, would we ask for your permission? We have the military power to take whatever we want. Instead, we're asking to join your community as partners. Dr. Quintal's tentacles stopped moving as he realized the truth of her words. The humans could have demanded anything from the galaxy. After their victory over the savage clans, instead, they were offering cooperation and protection. There's something else you should know, President Shaw continued. The battle you witnessed was just a small demonstration of human capabilities. We have military installations throughout this galaxy that you've never detected. If we wanted to be conquerors, the war would already be over. The chamber fell completely silent. The implications of that statement were staggering. How many human ships were hidden in the darkness? How many weapons platforms? How long had they been watching and preparing? Speaker Asara was the first to speak. President Shaw, what happens if we refuse your offer? Nothing, President Shaw replied simply. We'll continue protecting our own territory and leave you to handle your problems as you see fit. But the next time raiders attack your worlds, don't expect us to intervene. Zethkara felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. The galaxy was changing whether they wanted it to or not. The only question was whether they would be part of that change or victims of it. We need time to discuss this offer, he said finally. Of course, President Shaw nodded. But while you're discussing, remember that there are other threats out there. The savage clans were just the beginning. We've detected movement in the outer darkness, signs of other hostile forces preparing to move against civilized space. Galaxy needs protectors now more than ever. The transmission ended, leaving the council members staring at the empty display. For centuries, they had believed they were the guardians of galactic civilization. Now they realized they had been nothing more than sheep, protected by wolves they never knew existed. High Counselor Morthen spoke first, his voice subdued. We have no choice, do we? No, Zethkara replied. But perhaps that's not a bad thing. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy might actually be safe. 1 year later, Nelvana stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, watching the graduation ceremony of the first class at the Confederation Defense Academy. Students from dozens of species stood in neat formations, having learned military tactics. In strategy from human instructors, the changes had been remarkable. Pirate attacks on Confederation worlds had stopped completely after word spread about humanity's capabilities. Trade routes that had been dangerous for centuries were now completely safe. The galaxy's economy was booming as species could finally travel and trade without fear. Admiral Morrison joined her at the viewing window, his uniform now bearing the insignia of Supreme Commander of Confederation Defense Forces. "Are any regrets, Ambassador?" he asked with a smile. Nelvana thought about her first meeting with the humans, when she had assumed they were primitive creatures seeking protection. Now she watched as human and alien cadets worked together, learning to defend worlds they had never seen against threats they might never face. "Regrets," she replied. "Just gratitude that we were wrong about your people." In the ceremony below, President Shaw stepped up to address the graduates. Her words carried across the base and throughout the galaxy via hyperspace transmission. "You are the new guardians of galactic civilization," she said. "You represent dozens of species, hundreds of worlds, and billions of beings who sleep safely because of your dedication. Some of you come from peaceful garden worlds, others from harsh frontier colonies, but you all share one thing in common: the determination to protect others." Nirvana smiled as she watched the diverse group of cadets. Humans stood beside Valorians, Christic worked with Feliner, and dozens of other species trained together as one unified force.